Hi everyone, welcome to the first video for the first step of the science fair process. So our first step is to write a testable question. So let's see, what is a testable question anyway? Well, a testable question is a question you can design an experiment to answer. So not every question is a testable question, and there are certainly questions out there that are excellent science questions that just aren't something that you can test at home. For example, you might be interested in how planets are formed. That's a very interesting science question, but it's not a question that you can do an experiment to answer, so it isn't a testable question for your science fair project. So just make sure as you're trying to think of a question that it is something that you can really do an experiment to test. You don't want to come up with a question that's like a research question where you would just go online and look it up, like what does a volcano look like on the inside, or how do planets orbit the sun. Those kinds of questions are not testable questions that you need for the science fair. So what exactly does this mean for your project? Well, it means you can't do a project that's just building a model of something, because you're not really doing an experiment there, you're just building something cool. So that's a cool science project, but it's not a science fair project. You also can't just come up with a really cool collection of stuff that you want to share with people. So for example, you might have the most amazing rock collection in the world, but it doesn't work for a science fair project because you have to have that testable question. You have to do an experiment with your rocks. So just telling people about the rocks or telling people about something you have is not going to work for the science fair. And of course, you also can't just do a research project. So if it's just something that you would like look up and get some information about and then share, that's also not a science fair project. So what is it that a testable question looks like exactly? How do I write one of these? There are three basic frames here that we can use to make a science fair question. We're always trying in science fair to figure out cause and effect relationships. We're trying to figure out the effect that one thing has on another thing. And so we want to make sure that our question is showing that. So all of these kind of focus on cause and effect. So our first question form is, what is the effect of one thing on another thing? So some examples here would be, what's the effect that the material a cup is made of has on heat retention? So that is like taking different cups and putting some hot liquid in them and seeing how long it takes them to cool off. Another one might be, what's the effect of soap on bacteria growth? So that's one where we would be looking at different soaps and seeing how it changes how much bacteria grows. The next one is almost the same thing. You'll notice that there is an E here and an A here. And these are two different versions of the same word. Effect with an E means that you are dealing with a noun. So this is the noun version, a person, place, or thing, right? The effect. But when you use the A version, you're dealing with a verb. So we've made this the verb in this sentence instead of using it as a noun. So how does the material a cup is made from affect the temperature of water? So it's basically the same question as before, we've just written it in a different way. Again, we're trying to determine the cause and effect relationship between the material a cup is made from and the temperature of water in the cup. Another one that you could do for this one was, how does the acidity of water affect the weathering of rocks? So this one has to do with deciding, taking different levels of acidic liquids and pouring them on rocks and seeing which one causes the rocks to dissolve the fastest. The last type of question is which or what something, a verb, something else. So to do the first example again, written a different way, is which type of cup is best at keeping liquids hot? This is the one where you're really trying to compare some things. Would use this type of question. Another easy one that you could do is which brand of paper towel is most absorbent? So again, we're kind of looking at most, best, those types of questions with the last question stem. So how can we tell then, I've got this question, how do I know for sure this is a testable question? Well, the first thing you need to be able to do is come up with a basic idea for an experiment that can answer your question. This really isn't the time or place to write out a detailed plan for your experiment. Just make sure that you have an idea in your head for what it is that you're going to do to actually test your question. The second thing that you need to do to make sure your testing this question is testable is make sure that you can identify the variables for your experiment. We're going to talk about that in the next video, so just kind of pause if you're not sure on that for now. and make sure that your experiment includes each type of variable. And again, so it's time to kind of go to the next video to learn about variables so that you can make absolutely certain your testable question is indeed testable. So thanks for watching, and check out the next video to learn about variables.